So if you guys have got any problems with that, just shoot me a message and we'll work something out. Okay. If you guys have any questions, what I might get you to do is either you can save them for later on and we'll go through them, or you could just post them in the chat, and then at the end of the meeting, we'll go through and answer those questions to the best of our abilities. Cool. All right. Well, if everyone's ready, we'll just ask our head of development, Gautam. He's going to talk a little bit about the bitgrit artificial intelligence marketplace. I'm sure you guys have gone through the white paper, and if you haven't, Gautam will be able to provide you as much information as possible. So Gautam, are you ready to go?
Yeah, thank you, Mel. So basically what we are building is like product targeted towards data scientists. So I'm sure a lot of you are data scientists who write AI models in day-to-day life. Now that you think about it, like most of these models are in the hands of big corporates. So like think like Google has enormous amount of data, enormous amount of resources to build these models, but as a normal ordinary guy, we don't really have that much resources and money to spend as much as Google. So we don't really have an infrastructure where we can sell our AI models. So like right now there is no so an AI model is a product, right? And we should all be able to sell it. So there is no AI a marketplace where we can all create model and sell it to a client. Let's say you created a model about training the difference between different kinds of bird. So like basically you send an image of a bird and tells you what kind of bird it is. Now this model could be used by, I don't know, National Geographic or some other clients. Now what we are trying to build is a place where you can write your model and then host it and deploy it in our infrastructure at bitgrit, and then you can create an API endpoint, and then you can give that API endpoints to your clients, or you can go ahead and give it to anyone, and they can call that API endpoint. And by the number of times they make that API call, they'll get you'll get a profit out of it. And so that's how you can sell your AI in a marketplace. Now for this, we are like, it's basically like a lot of data science get mixed up with data engineering, and that's where the problem comes in. So as a data scientist, a lot of data scientists don't want to bother with DevOps or deploying their models at scale. That's a huge problem in itself. So what we are doing is like we are taking care of all of that for all of our data scientists, so they can focus on creating the best and most efficient model and don't have to worry about scaling this model to production. We'll do that for them. So that's the kind of marketplace we are trying to build, and we are working very closely with a lot of server-side programming, a lot of clusters, a lot of AI backend of AI training. So yeah, that's the AI marketplace, and that's the technical background behind it. If you guys have any questions related to it, feel free to post it on the chat, and I will be happy to answer them later in this call.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks for that, Gautam. So we're also going to get Shika, who has been working as a researcher and an engineer in our AI marketplace, to talk about what we've been doing with Kubeflow fairing. Shika, you ready to go? Hello, Shika. Okay, I think Shika might.
Yeah, hello. Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. I'm sorry.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I was just a bit delayed in turning my microphone on. So thank you, Mel. In today's session, I will discuss about this powerful tool called fairing that we are currently incorporating in artificial intelligence marketplace project. Before I dig deeper into this magic tool called fairing, I will share a few scenarios that we typically encounter so that we can really appreciate the value add that this tool and this feature will bring into the machine learning community. So the first scenario is the very ubiquitous, the code is working absolutely fine on my machine. What have you messed up at your end to not make it work? And this happens all the time when the other guy is religiously following instructions given in the README prepared by the developer. The code may not be working because an environment variable was different in the two machines. So we encounter this kind of scenario all the time, not just in machine learning world, but in other projects as well. The second scenario, which is very typical to the life of a data scientist, is very similar to what Gautam also mentioned, referred to earlier, which is experiencing long durations that models take to train. And the tough part is that the training has to be done multiple times. The typical machine learning cycle is we build a model, we train it, we validate the results on the trained model, and then we alter the model based on findings and repeat the process. There is rarely a case wherein even a seasoned data scientist will find that his first model is close to the best solution that he can create for the problem at hand. And then we have to deal with sheer number of parameters, and we deal with huge amount of data that is required for training the model. And there is no choice but to provide computational resources so that iterative training can be facilitated. Also, different kinds of problems like imaging problems or structured data problems require different computational resources. Good news is that today we have such resources available, but yes, there is cost attached to them. It might not be practical to have a cluster of powerful GPUs for every data scientist in the team and to see them not utilized effectively. We will be looking forward to a better solution to this situation. And this is exactly where Fairing comes into play. It completely streamlines the process of building, training, and deploying machine learning workflows on required infrastructure. And the beauty is that we can achieve that with just very, very few lines of code. Once we get our environment set up, the effort required by the data scientist is as close to nothing. And that is the beauty of the simple and powerful solution. Another interesting thing about Fairing is that TensorFlow has distributed computing API, and Fairing is compatible with that as well. So if we wanted to train our model in a distributed environment, Fairing will do that again with minimal effort from the developer. Now, the question is, how does Fairing do that? How does it solve all these problems so effectively? So at the back end, what it does for us is it creates Docker images for our code, for our environment, spins required number of containers with the requested resources, creates a job for training the model, trains it, and then it then deploys an endpoint for the trained model. So that is a brief description about Fairing. I will share my experience as I work towards incorporating these features into the project. Fairing is part of the Kubeflow tool set, which is built by Google. And Google does have a documentation that guides us in how to set up environment into our project. And what we have to do in order to set it up is fairly intuitive in the sense we need Fairing library, which we can get via pip. We need access to our project in G-Cloud. And for that, we need a service account and a key to that service account. We need to configure Kubernetes. We need to configure registry. And so it's all fairly intuitive. However, what is mentioned in the documentation was not sufficient to get me going. I had to actually dig into the code to figure out few of the hidden variables that are expected to be set up. They are very hard coded in the code currently. And yeah, after looking at the code, I could uncover those details and got it to work. Another challenge was that, we need to be really looking at the security aspects, and that is still something that I'm working on. And then there is another interesting challenge that I came across, which is that the error messages that are actually thrown right now are not very descriptive. So if, let's say, TF job version varies between Kubeflow and Fairing, all we'll get to see is that uh, request not found, and we would know what exactly is going on. And this particular problem was solved just 2 weeks back. So yeah, so the code of Fairing is pretty dynamic at Google's end, so we have to keep up with that. That is also one of the challenges. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. But we've made good progress, and we should be able to wrap it up in coming weeks. Hello.
Cool. Thanks for that, Shika.
Yep. Yep.
So lastly, we're going to get one of our engineers, Shabam, in to talk about our build cycle at Build bitgrit. You're ready to go, Shabam?
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Shubham. So I basically handles like DevOps and blockchain side of the things in bitgrit. So I'm gonna be sharing with you how we do have build, how we have designed our build cycle in bitgrit for deploying our platform. So initially, in the start, we are using Jira board for deciding okay what we want to do and what we don't want to do. In the Jira tickets, we are using Scrum method for that, and we have like 2 weekly sprint cycle for that. So first we finalize all the tasks we're gonna do, then we start building our code, and we are for version control we are using GitHub, and then we all our team push our GitHub code into GitHub. Then from that we have Jenkins build on our server. So whenever we push all our, we have like designed a pipeline, Jenkins pipeline for building, testing, and deploying entire pipeline for this. So whenever we do push, it continue to build our entire application, compile everything, every software, and Dockerize it, and then do test on it. Then if all the checks are right, then we move ahead into the deployment. So, and there are like few like state of the art tools which we are using, for example, like Stickler's AI for checking linting if there are any issues, and for vulnerabilities we are using Sonar Cloud, so we don't have any bugs or critical errors in our code. And in future we are also implementing Catalan API, so we are still working on this, and it will gonna test our APIs, our web platform, our mobile platform, and all the use cases which are yet to come. So this is what we are doing right now, and it took us a lot of time to design this entire workflow, and yeah, it's quite deep and intensive. Yeah, basically that's about it. If anyone have any questions or something, feel free to ask.
Cool. Thanks for that, Shabam. All right. So anybody that has any questions, I'll give you a couple of options. There are two ways that you can do this. So if you look at the bottom left hand of the screen, there is a little icon with a hand saying raise or lower your hand. We can either use that if you want to ask questions, or if you want to, we can you guys can post your questions into the chat, and we'll answer them like that. So if you guys have any questions, either use the hands up icon and I'll get to you guys, or if you want to post your questions in the chat, then we'll just go through them.
I think Neometrics has posed a question.
Yeah, sure. New Matrix, do you want to, which is the one? Let me have a look.
Yeah.
Where are we?
Like I was curious about logging and debugging capabilities.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
Shabam, you be able to answer that?
So this is pointed to Shikha, so I think she's working on this.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, so I wrote it in the chat. Yeah, Fairing does support PyTorch, and in the examples repository of Fairing, we'll actually find some PyTorch working examples. So yes, PyTorch is very much supported. Does that answer your question, Mani?
Neo.
Cool. Krishna. Yeah, sorry, Mani, I think you're, did that answer your question? If not, just post it in the chat and we'll come back to it. Krishna, I believe that you would like to speak. Do you want to ask your question?
All right. So, I mean, logging could be at various levels. As far as the training jobs are concerned, there is very, very detailed logging in terms of the resources it is consuming, and the Kubeflow has a dashboard. Okay, so you're interested in Faring's logging capabilities, which helps in debugging. All right. So now that you asked the question, I'll share my recipe for debugging. So, well, fairing code is essentially a set of Python files. And so you can locate those Python files. They are installed in whatever directory you install, and you can see where they're installed by typing a command pip show fairing, and that will tell you the location of the fairing files. And then they are as good as regular Python files, so you can put whatever debugging code you want to write there. You can I mean, a logging library is being used everywhere to show what's going on, and you can put your own logging commands, and that is what I have been using to figure out what's going on, and that has been very, very helpful to me. Maybe you could also give it a try. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, these are the examples, right?
Right, very true. This is the there is correct. This is the this is the examples folder. Absolutely right. This is the right location. So yeah. Milan, I am not sure about this question. I'm preparing to get a job in data science. Who is it directed
Yeah,
at?
Krishna, would you be able to clarify a little bit more about your question? Was there anything specific that you wanted to ask?
Okay, so someone asked about like Guru Raj asked about like platform as a service. So we are using right now Google Cloud for our entire deployment cycles. So yeah.
Okay, Gururaj, that answers your question. Okay, yep, that's an okay there. Now, Krishna, you had a question saying that you're looking at getting a job, you're preparing to get a job in data science. Do you have any specific question in relation to that?
Yeah, Krishna, you can also speak and tell us about what your experience and everything, and like what you know, and if you want any guidance or something like that.
Okay, so Krishna, I'd say your best bet would be to join the bitgrit Telegram group and also the Facebook group. That's generally where you're going to find the best advice, particularly for job finding. If you've got a LinkedIn account as well, then probably you're well off following either Joey Birchler, who's been so kindly helping us out as a moderator, Frederick Busler, who is our CEO. He often posts up really good advice on trying to find data science jobs. Along with that, you could also follow our official bitgrit page, and then you can sort of get updates of how we're going for in regards to getting the platform up and going. But that's kind of outside the scope of the meeting itself. Do we have any more questions and directly into relation about the topics that we've discussed today, or any questions that you have about our platform? I see that I've got a few raised hands here. So there's Abhijit. I see you've got a raised hand. Would you like to say something? Oh, okay, all good. Alrighty, we'll go. I'm just going down the list. Krishna, did you have any other questions beyond that? Guraj has a question. I think that's probably more for Gautam.
The simple answer is no. We are more focused on right now building our platform and getting things up and running before we think about doing airdrop or any of before giving out coins. So that's gonna happen sometime in the future, but there is no decided timeline at this point, like not 100% decided, but we are working actively in that direction. We are researching the market. We are trying to figure out what would be the best strategy for us. We are looking at different options, comparing them. So yeah, the things are in progress, but it's not gonna happen anytime within like today or tomorrow. Like it's gonna be sometime in the future for sure.
Cool. All right. Well, do we have any more questions from anybody? Yep, we've got one here. So this is from Jerome. What are your real-time dashboarding capabilities? That one, I'm guessing, we'll go to Gautam.
So real-time dashboarding about what? Like, what are we? Can you explain a bit more detail, like context of that question? Like dashboarding of our model, like when they're training. So like you're talking about TensorBoard, or are you talking about our like other product, the web product that we are building, like running analytics on top of that and analyzing how many users are coming from where, like those kind of things? What exactly? Oh, okay. So yeah, we are using Google Analytics in our platform. Plus, we are gonna be using a lot of other resources like for our data set, we are using Google Buckets. So like we are gonna be analyzing what is the size of the data set. Right now we are using Google Bucket. In the future, we plan to use persistent volumes and a lot of other complicated stuff. But so at this point, like we will provide all kinds of dashboarding capabilities that buckets have and that Google Cloud Platform provides, plus Google Analytics. So basically, pretty in-depth amount of analytics we can capture.
Jerome, does that answer your question at all? Okay. Alrighty. I've got another question from Itachi. I'm interested in time series forecasting. I'm working on some Kaggle datasets. I came across econometrics. What more should I explore to improve my skill set in this particular technique? Is this something that you reckon you'd be able to answer, Gautam?
This is a very precise data science related question. So I think you can ask it in our data science Telegram community, or if you I think if you ask there will be a lot of data scientists ready to help you with more hands-on experience. I think talking here will be too in detail for other people, right?
Cool. All right. So moving on from that question, just let me see if we've got any more hands up. Okay. All right. We've got another question coming from Guruaj saying, do you plan on using unstable nightly? I'd love that option to be included in the platform as a choice.
Unstable nightly, by that, do you mean like nightly builds? Is that what you're talking about? Okay, yeah. So we are not using nightly builds at this point. We are going with so basically we build every time there's a push. So every 30 minutes actually, it's even faster than um, nightly build. So we build in every 30 minutes. We have multi-pipeline Jenkins in place. I think Shubham can explain in more detail, but we have a Jenkins pipeline in place that checks code change every 30 minutes, and we build the whole thing in every 30 minutes. So it's even faster than nightly builds.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, moving on from that question. Anurag Singh, is there any platform for data tagging?
So in our platform, you will be able to upload data sets, but those have to be already tagged. So I think this is not something that we are planning to launch this feature anytime soon, but this could be something we can explore in the future, but not right now, not at this moment.
All right, so we get a question from Ayushi. Can you tell me which cloud platform is good for testing, building any model, and deployment of any model for machine learning? Got him. I think that's a good question for you.
Yeah, that's our platform. Obviously, our platform is the best. So the thing is, like, it's not out there in public. So out of AWS, Google, Azure, it's personally like I feel all those three are very similar. So it's just eating the same food from different plate. So you're eating the same food in the sense that you are. It provides the same capabilities of Kubernetes in the background. It provides the same capability of like Docker containerization and all that, and those are open source technologies, so they are just the same thing, just the interface. The buttons are here and there, and like they call it different. For example, Google called it buckets, Amazon called it static S3, I think. So it's just the same thing with different names, so it doesn't really matter which one you choose out of those three. But the thing that we are building at bitgrit is something on top of that. So basically you don't have to worry about deployment of your model at all, testing of your model at all. You just need to focus on writing the code, the mathematics behind the model, and we'll automatically deploy it for you. So that's the aim, and we are working day and night towards it. I think pairing is one of the things that we explored, and Shik has actively exploring at this moment. So yeah, so I think the best platform is bitgrit, not Google, not Amazon, and not Microsoft.
Another question from Miyushi, who is just disconnected. In respect to cost and flexibility of deployment process of any ML model.
So most of them cost by, you can check out the pricing. I don't really remember the pricing, but you can, they usually charge by the computation and the storage. So it depends on your model completely and their pricing. So in our case, we won't be charged. So this is the thing. So in bitgrit's case, we won't be charging the consumer, like us, like data scientists. We won't have to pay. You know who's gonna pay for it? It's the client who's gonna use the model. So like instead of us paying for our training our model, clients are gonna say, hey, I want this model, and we're gonna write the model for them, and we're gonna be like, yeah, here's the model deployed, and every time they want to call the model, whatever the training cost is, or running cost is, or data storage cost is, that will all come from the client's expense. So we can focus on writing the model and not worry about the expenses and all that. That's the whole idea of democratizing the AI, right?
Yeah, I couldn't have answered that better myself, Gautam. Okay, so we've got another question from Anurag. how can we deploy a latest model like BERT or XLNet in production while keeping the cost low?
That's something I think I'm not really aware of BERT or that specific model. So I think if Shikha is aware of that, she can probably answer.
I mean, so BERT is a model that is there for analyzing textual data. So what exactly is the cost aspect that is that you're referring to, Anurag? I mean, I was working on a Kaggle problem, and I was able to deploy BERT library. I didn't face any problems. So exactly what is your concern when you say when you talk about BERT? Hello?
So they must be typing.
Yeah, well, we might have to come back to that question. I've got another question from Jerome. I've worked on social network analysis using Neo4j for detecting fraud rings for an insurance use case. How well does your platform deal with graph databases with respect to creating a graph on a large data set, 3 million rows, and visualizing the same?
Okay, so I think I can answer that. So basically, we don't interact with databases directly. So if you want to use our platform, you would have to build a data set out of that database's data, and then you can put it on our platform, and then you can write the Python side of the code or analysis side of the code on our platform. So we won't be connecting to the database is like another side of the thing. Like that we could not support all the databases. So the idea is like the user will have to bring, or the clients will have to bring their own data set into our platform, and once the data set is ready, then we can do processing on it. So we won't be directly going to the data ourselves. We would have to get the data from in order to get the analysis done.
Okay, so that answers Jerome's question. Anurag just came back to you, Shika, with, I have this translation task that needs to be deployed on CPU using BERT.
Right, Anurag. So, as I mentioned earlier, BERT is like a trained model, which kind of takes away all the hard work away from data scientist, and given a text, it returns the feature set. So I mean, you got to deploy it just like any other trained model. I'm not sure what problem you are facing there. Um, so if you could detail more, then I might be able to answer that a little better.
That's probably more of a question for the bitgrit Telegram, because we're getting a little bit specific, and we're also going a little bit over time. I might just see if we can answer one more question, and then we'll sort of wrap it up for the night. So we've got Neomatrix here asking, would it be possible to install an external app, i.e. database in the case on your platform, and then connect it to that app on your platform? Or is your platform closed to new apps?
So the idea is like if you want to connect like external app or your specific app into our platform, so it will be first of all for the enterprise. So the idea is that enterprises can deploy the whole solution in their infrastructure with the database and everything, and then they can open it to the public. So basically crowdsourcing the model development, instead of like right now there's a big consulting firms that consults and builds the model for a specific client. So like instead of that, they can just post it on connect their databases, create the data set, and put it on their own enterprise inside their own infrastructure, so that it's secure and they can follow their own security standards. And they can have a web front which they can deploy anywhere out on the internet, and that web front we'll be able to analyze the data. But it won't be something like we'll do it ourselves. That will be something a responsibility of the client to deploy. We can help with the deployment, but it will be their responsibility to connect it with their own databases rather than us doing it.
All right. Well, I hope that answered your question. Look, you can always, if you guys have got any specific questions, you can always post them either on the bitgrit page, either on the official bitgrit Facebook or the bitgrit community page, and we'll try and get those questions answered as best we can. But yeah, sorry, we're all out of time. We're about 10 minutes over our schedule today. Look, everybody, thank you for joining us. Thanks to all the engineers as well for coming along. Thank you to Joey, who has been sort of helping out in the chat, and to also our moderators in the group. So just a little announcement. I can't 100% confirm this at this point because I don't want to disappoint you guys completely, but we're hoping next month that we will be able to actually do a live walkthrough of the platform itself. I'm not going to give you guys any more details than that, but just wait on our social media, and we will update you as soon as we know what's going to happen. But yeah, that'll be looking at the second Saturday of August. Yeah, it would be our first live walkthrough, basically showing you our platform for the first time in the public. So keep an ear out for that, and we'll let you know as soon as we've got any details. Cool. All right. Well, anything else from anybody before we go? Got him, Shika, Shabam?
We're good.
Yeah, that's all. Thanks everyone for joining in.
Well, thanks everyone for joining. Yeah, if you want to get in contact with any of us, just either message us on our Facebook or post into the Bitgrit community chat, and we'll get back to you as best we can. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and enjoy either your morning, your afternoon, or your evening. All right, guys.
Have a
Have a good
nice
night.
weekend,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Thanks for joining us.